Hello everyone, welcome to Wealth Ideas, an investor education initiative by PhonePe. Through this series, we want to help you make the right investment decision. और वो हम कैसे करने वाले हैं? By sharing interesting investment ideas and inviting the best investment experts in the country to share their insights and answer your questions. My name is Terence Lucian और आज हमारे साथ है मिस्टर नीलेश शाह जो कोटक म्यूचुअल फंड के ग्रुप प्रेसिडेंट और मैनेजिंग डायरेक्टर है. मिस्टर शाह इज वन ऑफ द मोस्ट famous persons in the Indian mutual fund industry. He has over 25 years of experience in managing money. और उनके साथ है मिस्टर पंकज टिब्रेवाल जो कोटक म्यूचुअल फंड के इक्विटी फंड मैनेजर है. Mr. Tibrewal has 18 years of experience in the investment management industry. Welcome, Nilesh, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Terence. It's my pleasure to be here.
Okay, so let's start with our first question for the day. So, Nilesh, there is a lot of talk about a potential global recession. On the other hand, the Indian markets, after a brief pause of volatility that we saw, has grown, and in fact, Sensex ने 60,000 cross किया हुआ है, right? लेकिन investors are a little bit nervous. So my first question, in fact, and I'm going to break this into two questions, is first, क्या वाकई में there is a global recession happening, right? And two, if yes, how is that going to impact the Indian stock market and the Indian economy? So over to you, Nilesh.
Okay. So we believe globally there is a very high chances that recession will happen in US and Europe. In fact, America already recession में है. अगर आप global definition America में apply करें, their March 22 quarter GDP was down 1.4%. June 22 was down 0.9%. And as per global definition, they're already in recession. Now, when the world is in recession and we are doing better, then certainly people will treat us like oasis in desert. This calendar year 2021, India was the fastest growing major economy in the world with growth rate above 7%. Calendar year 22, also we will be the fastest growing major economy in the world. And calendar year 23 also we are likely to be the fastest growing major economy in the world. So आपने बचपन में एक advertisement देखी होगी, इसकी शर्ट मेरी शर्ट से सफेद कैसे? In the world where everyone is wearing a black shirt or a gray shirt, our white shirt will look even whiter. So Indian economy and Indian investors should do well despite global recession.
थैंक यू नीलेश. आपने जो अभी कहा वो काफ़ी इंटरेस्टिंग है. तो ये जो न्यूज़ जो हम आजकल जो सुन रहे हैं, इट्स नॉट ओनली अबाउट इंडिया बट मोर अबाउट द ग्लोबल इकोनॉमी. दिस ब्रिंग्स मी टू माय नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन. हमने देखा है कि पिछले कुछ सालों में काफ़ी इंडियन इन्वेस्टर्स इंटरनेशनल स्टॉक्स और फंड्स में इन्वेस्ट कर रहे हैं. तो मेरा ये अगला क्वेश्चन ये है कि कंसिडरिंग दिस ग्लोबल रिसेशन, ये जो ग्लोबल रिसेशन के बारे में बातें हो रहे हैं, कंसिडरिंग दैट, ये जो इन्वेस्टर्स है जिन्होंने शायद अभी शुरू किया है ग्लोबल इन्वेस्टिंग या करना चाह रहे हैं, व्हाट शुड दे बी डूइंग? व्हाट इज योर व्यू अबाउट दिस?
So the person who is investing in global funds, his objectives will be to one, get geographical diversification. हमारे दो नेबर है, पाकिस्तान और चाइना. Now if tomorrow, God forbid, if there is a war on India, Indian assets will fall and your global assets will get protected. So this is one, geographical diversification. Now the probability of nuclear armed countries going to war is very, very low. So it's a low probability but high impact event. And hence one should diversify something in global assets. The second thing why you should invest offshore is if you want to send your son or daughter abroad for study, it is important to create some dollar assets. Again, global funds will come into play. Now, for geographical diversification, or to create foreign currency assets, investment in global fund is appropriate vehicle. One can invest via liberated remittance schemes directly also, or one can invest via mutual fund.
So that's quite interesting, Nilesh, what you said. So there are two reasons what you specifically mentioned, and I'm sure there are others. One being diversification. So if you're looking at, there are other opportunities in addition to what you are doing in India. So अगर आप इंडिया में इन्वेस्ट करें और उसके in addition to that अगर आप करना चाहते हैं, so that is something from a country diversification. And the second is अगर आपका ऐसा कोई financial goal है, like if you have children or you're going to who need to go abroad and study for whatever reason, right? Maybe that's something that you could plan for, because वहाँ का जो inflation है and the growth of those global stocks to a certain extent will be linked to each other. So thanks a lot, Nilesh, for that insight. Moving on to the next question, right? As I said in the beginning, over the last few months, Indian stock market में काफी उतार चढ़ाव आ रहा है. Yes, Sensex अभी 60,000 क्रॉस कर चुका है, but इन्वेस्टर्स जिन्होंने पहली बार इन द लास्ट 1 ईयर जिन्होंने इन्वेस्ट किया है, उन्होंने काफी उतार चढ़ाव देखा है. और कुछ इन्वेस्टर्स को कभी कभी ऐसा लगता है कि शायद एफडीज, द फिक्स्ड डिपॉजिट, ऐसे कोई जो फिक्स्ड रेट ऑफ रिटर्न वाले इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स है जहां पे वो अपना पैसा बचा रहे हैं, मे बी दोज आर अ लिटिल मोर स्टेबल compared to what the equity markets are. What would be your views that you would like to share with these investors?
So, Terence, my simple question to all those guys who are saying that fixed deposit is better than equity, please show me one person who has become richer by investing in bank fixed deposit. If you go through the history of investment, I doubt across world, not only in India but across world, you will find a person who has become richer by investing in bank deposit. Bank deposit is for main stability and equity is for growth. When you invest in bank fixed deposit, what you get is a predictable return. If a bank tells 7% return on fixed deposit, you know that after 1 year it will become 107. In stock market, you don't get predictability of return. It could be minus 7% also, plus 20% also. For embracing that unpredictability, you get better return in stock market over a period of time. And because
okay, I think we just lost Nilesh's voice, but if I may just, I think what he was saying was pretty clear. कि सिर्फ एफडीज में पैसा सेविंग्स करके अपना पैसा, पूरा पैसा अगर आप एफडीज में लगाओगे, so you cannot get rich. Yes, you do get some amount of predictability. So FDs do have a certain fixed return. Investments do have a place in your investments, but if you want to really grow money, अगर आप अपना पैसा बढ़ाना चाहते हैं, then equities is something that you can look at. But very important thing to note over here, this is only when you are investing for the long term, as Nilesh has just shared. इन द शॉर्ट टर्म इक्विटीज में काफी उतार चढ़ाव आता है. सो जो आप अगर आप इन्वेस्ट कर रहे हैं, जो आप उस इन्वेस्टमेंट का नीड अगर 2 या 3 साल में है, तो perhaps equity may not be the best. Equities are better for the long term investments, and that's exactly how you should actually manage your investment. So while Nilesh comes, let me also ask Nilesh's colleague Pankaj, who's with us and works very closely with Nilesh in actually managing all the funds and so on. So Pankaj, what can you add to a little more to what Nilesh was saying? We did hear him talk about, yes, FDs for a little bit of stability, लेकिन you cannot grow your wealth. Wealth अगर आपको grow करना है तो वो equities के द्वारा हो सकता है, and obviously from the long term point of view. So can you add something to that?
So, I mean, we all know that compounding is the eighth wonder in the world. And people who have understood it and tasted it, they will swear by it. Let me explain you with a data point which is just handy in front of me in my mind. A few days back, I was looking at the data in US from 1871, which is like 150 years of US returns. And you'll be surprised, and all your listeners will be surprised to know that in these 150 years, there have been 30 recessions in US. 30 decent recessions in US. I'm not talking about the latest one, but 30 decent recessions in US. And despite of those, the US market post-inflation has given a CAGR of 7% returns. And if you add inflation, it's about 9.5%, 10%. And that's over a compounding of 150 years. And this has been the best asset class which has created wealth, not 1 year, 2 year, 5 year, 10 year, but over a 150-year history. So, we are still very early in the stage in equity investing in India. And I think don't forget that if we miss this buzz, history won't be very kind to us. Our kids won't be very kind to us. This is the golden era for the next decade, 2 decades. And if we miss this $3 trillion to $10 trillion journey, on the hindsight, we'll feel very guilty about it.
So thanks, Pankaj. I think very interesting. You said Nilesh, and I think Nilesh is also back. I requested Pankaj to kind of add to what you were saying. So very interesting insight जो पंकज ने शेयर किया है कि यूएस में इतने सालों के बाद भी right the rate of returns that an equity gives in the long term and US क्योंकि वहाँ का example is of a slightly longer stock market than compared to where we are. So yes, in the short term equities में उतार चढ़ाव होता रहता है, but in the long term it was likely to outperform and give you better returns. But very, very important to note the long-term words that I have just used. Do not try to time the market in the short term. That may not be something that's recommended. So thanks a lot, Nilesh and Pankaj. I'll move to the next question. We saw in the poll, right, a lot of current participants वो अभी भी invest कर रहे हैं via SIPs, right? अगर we look at what's happening in India, what around 12,000 crore हर महीने SIPs के through invest हो रहा है to retail customer investors, right? What would you suggest, Nilesh and Pankaj, by requesting y'all, what would you suggest to these SIP investors in this current environment? In SIP investors को आप क्या बताएंगे in the current environment?
So my recommendation will be SIP karo, mast raho. SIP is the most simplest solution, most commonsensical solution, but it is also the most effective solution. Many a times in life, simple things, commonsensical things are miracle. But Terence, SIP में return के लिए अग्नि परीक्षा देना बहुत जरूरी है. In Jan 2020, Pankaj Bhai's funds were delivering double-digit return between 15 to 20% compounded for 10 years. In March 20, 3-year returns become negative, 5-year return became low single digit, and 10-year return came down by half. The returns were lower than bank fixed deposits over a 10-year period. This was the Agni Pariksha. People who stayed invested, today they are again getting 15 to 20% plus return in Pankaj Bhai's fund. So SIP बहुत ही simple चीज है, बहुत ही effective चीज है, but उसमें अग्नि परीक्षा देनी बहुत जरूरी है.
That's a very interesting point, Nilesh. आपने जो कहा अग्नि परीक्षा in SIP is we hope that our investors don't come across it, at least not too often, but yes, it's very important कि जितने लंबे समय तक आप SIPs में invested रहेंगे, आप SIPs द्वारा invest करेंगे, that's the better chance that you will have of a higher return. Yes, in shorter periods, there will be times जब आपके रिटर्न्स कम हो, जैसे नीलेश ने अभी बताया, जो पंकज जो इक्विटी फंड्स मैनेज करते हैं कोटक म्यूचुअल फंड के लिए, देयर हैव बीन टाइम्स जो फंड्स में SIPs के द्वारा भी इन्वेस्ट किया है, इन द शॉर्टर पीरियड कभी नेगेटिव रिटर्न्स आ सकता है, बट दैट इज द अग्नि परीक्षा दैट नीलेश वाज टॉकिंग अबाउट. उन उन टाइम्स के ड्यूरिंग दैट टाइम आप कैसे अपना इन्वेस्टमेंट मैनेज कर रहे हो? आर यू गोइंग टू विड्रॉ ऑल योर मनी, ऐसे नहीं मैं इसे मैनेज नहीं कर सकता, ये जो नेगेटिव रिटर्न्स आ रहा है आई कांट हैंडल दिस, या आप लगे रहेंगे और आपका एसआईपी कंटिन्यू करेंगे? दैट इज द मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट पार्ट दैट विल एक्चुअली डिटरमाइन कि how much money are you growing in the long term. So thanks a lot for that insight, Nilesh. Now, before we move to the Q&A section, and I'm seeing a lot of questions are already typed, so I'm sure the participants are eager to know the answers to their questions. But before we move to the Q&A section, I want to ask you a very specific question, right? And we have a lot of youngsters listening over here about what you have to say. And they have seen a lot of changes in the way the stock market returns have happened in the last few years. So my question to you is, a lot of investors, obviously, we do have a financial goal, like Pankaj earlier mentioned, and you also mentioned. But at the end of it, there is finally, we want to get, let's say, wealthy, grow our number, and so on. Is there a secret formula, right? A lot of customers and sometimes feel that maybe there is एक ऐसा कोई formula है, अगर मुझे वो पता चले, right? And I use that, maybe I'll grow my money faster than anyone else. Is there a formula to get wealthy in your mind?
Terence bhai, if there was a shortcut to success, all of us would have become billionaire. The fact remains that both me and Pankaj are still working on a job. And people consider us knowledgeable in stock market. But both of us are not billionaire. So please remember, there is no shortcut to success. But both of us have achieved financial freedom by three simple things. अपने में कहावत है, बूंद बूंद से सागर बनता है. Regular investment through systematic investment plan in equity mutual fund can give you financial freedom. The second proverb in our country is, don't put all eggs in one basket. You diversify your investment across debt, equity, real estate, and gold and offshore assets. This will give you real return even in a period like 2020 when markets corrected. The third is long-term investment. There is a proverb, jaldi se aam nahi pakte hain. If you want delicious mango,
I think we lost audio from Nilesh. Pankaj, I think Nilesh was making a very important point, which was about long term. So, if I can just request you to maybe share your views on the long term part that Nilesh was talking about.
Yes, so clearly what Nilesh Bhai was talking about, that keep regular investments going on. There's no shortcut for success. Making sure that you don't put all the eggs in one basket, that means keep diversifying across different funds, different categories, different asset classes, and make sure, and this is something which I have learned the hard way over the last 2 decades of managing funds, that always in the wealth creation, we keep on blaming people or things which are outside our control. But if you ask me, the biggest enemy or friend in a wealth creation is you yourself. If over a period of time we can control our temperament, we can control our emotions, and not get into the cycle of greed and fear very often, I think nobody can stop wealth creation from us. And finally, in the 17 and 80s and 90s, when Mr. Warren Buffett was interviewed, he said that I have done nothing. I am just fortunate that I was born in United States of America, and this country offered me large opportunity. I would like to repeat that thing in India's context, that we all are fortunate that we are born in this country of great opportunity for at least next 2 decades. And if over a period of time, by maintaining our temperament, maintaining our emotions, and believing in the India story. See, you have to over a period of time believe कि ये इंडिया स्टोरी में आगे चल के अपना देश बहुत बड़ा बनने वाला है, 3 ट्रिलियन से 10 ट्रिलियन की जर्नी अपने तय करेंगे. उसके बीच में ऊपर नीचे होगा, चढ़ाव भी होगा, 2013 भी आएगा, 2008 भी आएगा, 2020 भी आएगा, बट उसके अंदर आप अपने इमोशन को और बिग पिक्चर को अगर आप नहीं मिस करो, so I think the wealth creation will definitely happen. And we interact with millions of investors who are invested in our funds on an annualized basis. And the biggest difference we have seen, people who have done nothing to their portfolio, the compounding has been magical. And people who are, for the sake of being active every day, tinker and look at their portfolios, they have missed the compounding machine or the compounding bus.
That's a good point that you shared, Pankaj, and I'd like to summarize, if I may, for our participants. So Nilesh and Pankaj actually shared three key insights. So from what Pankaj said, first, okay, the next 10 to 20 years, अगले 10 या 20 और शायद उससे भी कई ज़्यादा साल belong to India. India is in a super growth stage, and I think जो India में जो belief है, if you continue that, then that is likely going to help you out immensely. So that is the first point that Pankaj made just now. The second thing that Pankaj said, the biggest enemy that can come in between that growth that you can enjoy and you is you yourself, right? So and we see it because we talk to a lot of investors. जब स्टॉक मार्केट में काफी उतार चढ़ाव आता है, खास करके जब स्टॉक मार्केट गिरने लगता है, तो लॉट ऑफ इन्वेस्टर्स आइदर दे स्टॉप देयर इन्वेस्टमेंट्स, या तो इन्वेस्टमेंट बंद कर देते हैं या अपना पैसा रिडीम कर देते हैं. और जब स्टॉक मार्केट वापस ऊपर जाने लगता है, वी सॉ दैट ड्यूरिंग कोविड, राइट, जब स्टॉक मार्केट फरवरी 2020 में गिरने लगा, तो कुछ ही महीनों बाद द ग्रोथ बिगैन. जिन्होंने अपने इन्वेस्टमेंट्स बंद किए थे या जिन्होंने अपना इन्वेस्टमेंट्स रिडीम किया था, जब वो ग्रोथ का पीरियड आ गया, when that growth began, they couldn't participate and they lost that opportunity. So that's what Pankaj shared. And I'd like to go back to what Nilesh I said. There is no
Terence, if I can intervene.
Sorry, yes, please go.
मेरी वाईफाई की कनेक्टिविटी जैसी है, कभी आती है कभी जाती है, but finally जरूर आ जाती है.
Absolutely. और जब आती है, then it's very, very useful to hear what you're saying. As I was just summarizing, what Nilesh I was saying is that there is no secret formula to getting rich overnight, but yes, there is a formula, and he mentioned 3 points, and I noted it down, so I'd like to actually summarize it for you. The first thing he said, continue regular investing, which is very, very important, right? Don't try and time the market. अब इन्वेस्ट करेंगे, 3 महीने बाद करेंगे. As much as you can, regular investing. In fact, we share one simple method that a lot of investors could try, is that for all, at least उन लोगों के लिए जो monthly salary earn करते हैं, like all of us over here on this chat, at least try and invest as soon as your salary comes. राइट, आप मंथ के एंड तक अगर रुकोगे इन्वेस्ट करने के लिए, चांसेस आर यू हैव स्पेंट योर मनी. सो इफ यू कीप योर एसआईपीज इन द बिगिनिंग ऑफ द मंथ, यू आर श्योर दैट यू विल इन्वेस्ट रेगुलरली. सो दैट इज द फर्स्ट थिंग, इन्वेस्ट रेगुलरली. सेकंड थिंग दैट नीलेश सेड वाज दैट डाइवर्सिफाई. मतलब आप पूरा पैसा एक ही जगह में इन्वेस्ट ना करें, उसे अलग अलग स्टॉक्स में, अलग अलग कैटेगरीज में, अलग अलग म्यूचुअल फंड्स में, आप जहां पे भी आप कंफर्टेबल हो वहां पे इन्वेस्ट करें, पूरा पैसा एक ही जगह पे ना लगाए. एंड फाइनली ही सेड टाइम, राइट, इन्वेस्ट रेगुलरली, डाइवर्सिफाई एंड इन्वेस्ट फॉर द लॉन्ग टर्म. आप जितना लॉन्ग टर्म के लिए इन्वेस्ट करेंगे उतना बेहतर होगा. सो दिस एक्चुअली इज अ फॉर्मूला. इट्स जस्ट नॉट a secret that nobody knows, it's a secret that nobody uses actually, right? Everybody reads about it, but when you go to actually practice it, very few people do, and those who do have seen the return. So thanks a lot, Nilesh and Pankaj, for sharing your thoughts. I think we'll now jump into the Q&A section, because there are a lot of questions that are coming in, and I want to try and get as much as we can in the next few minutes that we have. So I'm going to move to the first question. I'm just going to read it out from my screen over here. And the first question is, our index, yani Indian stock market, is on the rise, right? बढ़ रहा है. while the world over there are likely clouds of recession. Baki dunya mein possibility of recession, at least by the year end, right? So it's a very specific question. What is recommended for the long-term investments while recession in stocks is happening in equity, or should we keep our money in debt? What is your opinion? How does one manage it in this scenario?
Pankaj bhai.
Yeah, so the first fundamental point is that stock market and economy both are not same. And always we have seen that during recession periods, markets are much, much smarter. They bottom out before people think the recession is over, and they top out before they think the economy is doing well. So I think one fundamentally needs to understand that stock market and economy both are very different. And that's why I say that in US, when you look at last 150 years, despite of 30 recessions out there, equity market has generated 7% post adjusted for inflation returns. And it has been the best wealth creator. Right now, as we look around us, I think the world is in a bad shape, I would say. US having its own challenges, Europe having its own challenges, China, we are seeing the growth numbers coming down. And as Nilesh Bhai said at the start, that we'll be the fastest growing economy in the world, not even calendar year 22, but even in calendar year 23. And we believe that the way things are happening globally and around us, the kind of opportunities we are seeing for the country as a whole, I think is tremendous. I can just add by saying that when we speak to entrepreneurs, promoters around us, the kind of bullishness we are seeing, we have never seen in our 2.5 decades of investing out there. Everybody used to complain, things are not happening there, here. And I think today's interview and the comment by Mr. Sunil Bharti Mittal is worth noting out, where he said that yesterday they deposited the 5G spectrum money and within few hours they got the allocation. No running around corridors, no fuss, no chamchagiri, babugiri, everything, and just within few hours this is a new rising India. This is an entrepreneur of high status, high stature, and when it is coming out of him as an actual thing which happened just a day or 2 days back, it's just worth noticing it. And I think this is the changing India which we all are witnessing. You all will be surprised, and if 2 years back before I said COVID would happen, but in 9 months 150 crore people will be vaccinated within a very short span, and the moment syringe goes into our body, the certificate is there on our mobile phone. The fact is it's happened in front of us and we all have gone through it. So friends, I think don't miss the big picture. There will be always news and things which will psychologically deter you from not investing. You will keep hearing news about US, Europe, everywhere. But the fact of the matter remains that this decade, this again I repeat, could be a golden era for Indian equity investing. So don't get too bogged down by what's happening globally.
So that's quite interesting. Pankaj, I think the point that you started off with also is very important, and I would like to, with your permission, reiterate that what Pankaj said. Stock market does not mean the economy, right? So economy, Indian economy is strong and is growing and is likely to grow for a long time to see from now. What's happening in the stock market does not necessarily reflect the economy at all points of time, but in the long run, if the economy is growing, it's very likely that your stock market will follow. So I think that is a very important point that you made. Thank you, Pankaj, for that. I'll move to the next question. Now, this is interesting. We get this question many times. It's been posted today also quite a few times. It's a very simple question and an age-old question, to be very honest. Is mutual fund investing better than investing in real estate? Right? This is a very simple question. I know you, maybe Nilesh, Pankaj, you'll have heard this before. What's your view about this?
I'll ask Nilesh Bhai to answer this because it's a subject which is very close to his heart, which is real estate versus equity investing.
See, Terence, as I mentioned earlier, you need to invest in equity, debt, real estate, commodity, and offshore. Maintain a balance. But I'll just give you an example of late Rakesh Jhunjhunwala ji. He bought a property in Mumbai's Stony area of Malabar Hill, Walkeshwar, by selling CRISIL shares. And you can do a Google search, CRISIL shares, Rakesh Jhunjhunwala real estate. You will realize that he would have got 10 times more properties if he had hold on to CRISIL shares. So over a long period of time, we do believe equity shares will outperform real estate. And it's not only for a legend like Rakesh Jhunjhunwala ji, but also for a common man. In 2004, there was a property launch in Lalbagh area called Ashoka Tower. If you had invested in equity mutual fund in 2004 or bought a Ashoka Tower property, today from the same equity mutual funds, you will be able to buy 2.5 times property in Ashoka Tower. So over a period of time, a common man will be able to outperform real estate via direct stocks or equity mutual funds. But at the same time, you should maintain a balance. Don't favor one against the other. You need everything in your portfolio.
I think that's quite interesting. And of course, the example of Mr. Rakesh Jhunjhunwala, who we all lost and we deeply mourn that loss. The example जो नीलेश जी ने दिया है, the other one about the property in Lal Bagh जो मुंबई में एक जगह है, as to how property खरीदने के अलावा बजाय if you would have invested आपके पैसे कैसे बढ़ते. Now, obviously, this is not an example that applies to your own house, right? This is investing in real estate. So please, do think of what we have just said from an investment point of view. And obviously, as Nilesh also said, you have to have a fair mix. Pankaj had also earlier said, you can't put everything in one basket. Nilesh had also made a reference to that. So thanks a lot. Moving to the next question. Now, this is quite topical. It was very hot. A question a few months ago is still now. Many people I know are investing in crypto. Okay. What do you think, in the hopes of high returns, obviously, how do these instruments fare against mutual funds?
So crypto, we don't know. You can value a share rightly or wrongly based on its potential cash flow. But how do you value crypto where there is no underlying? The whole crypto is based on either greater fool theory that someone will come and buy it at a higher price from me tomorrow and hence I should buy it today. So my recommendation is that we don't know what crypto is. If you want to dabble in crypto, do it like a gamble. You don't play gambling like Yudhishthir, putting your wife and brother and entire Rajpat on Dow. You play very cautiously and conservatively. जितना पैसा आप खो सकते हैं without shedding a tear, उतना आप क्रिप्टो में लगा लीजिए. चल गया तो सिकंदर, नहीं चला तो आपका मुकद्दर.
That's a very interesting phrase. So, जैसे दिलेश जी ने अभी कहा, you can try something if you want. I mean, there are a lot of listeners who are right now maybe investing in crypto or thinking. So, अगर आप risk लेना चाहते हैं तो उन्हीं पैसों से risk आप ले जो which you can afford to lose. Do not put your entire life savings. Do not put a very large sum and take a very large risk. In fact, in anything that you don't understand. The key is that you don't understand. Right? So Nilesh did mention about the cash flows and stocks. So what does that? उसका मतलब क्या है? जब आप कोई म्यूचुअल फंड में इन्वेस्ट करते हैं इक्विटीज में, तो उन इक्विटी फंड के द्वारा आप एक्चुअली कंपनी के स्टॉक में इन्वेस्ट करते हैं और वो कंपनी का स्टॉक तभी बढ़ता है जब कंपनी does well, right? So that's what the whole cash flow. अगर कंपनी is generating cash and so on, only then will a company do well. But in crypto, there is no such underlying that you can base it on. Okay, something is doing well, इसलिए crypto बढ़ेगा. It's what Nilesh was talking about, the greater fool theory. Basically, it means the value is growing because somebody thinks it's valued more than you. That's about it at the moment, at least. So thanks a lot for that view. Nilesh, you did mention about cash flow. So in fact, it's very interesting because the next question is sort of related to that. And I'm going to read the question here. I have read that long-term stock market performance depends on earnings and profitability of the companies. What is your outlook on company earnings in the short to medium term? Now the question doesn't mention India, but I'm guessing it refers to India. So what's your view about company earnings in India in the short to medium term? And Nilesh, Pankaj, happy to hear from
Pankaj
both.
Bhai is a better person to answer that.
Okay. So if you look at, let's put the numbers in perspective. Last year, Nifty delivered 39% earnings growth, and the EPS for Nifty was 730 rupees. In this year, which is the current financial year FY23, the expectation is that 730 rupees moves to 840 rupees. But at the start of the year, this number expectation was 860 rupees. Now, after the first quarter numbers, there has been slight downgrade in the earnings expectation. And that's primarily because this year, there are 4 sectors or stocks which are contributing to bulk of the Nifty earnings growth. One is Reliance Industries, second is Tata Motors, the third is entire banking sector, and the fourth is IT services. Now, there was disappointment on Reliance and Tata Motors in the first quarter, and that's why Nifty delivered 23% earnings growth year on year, and the whole year expectation is about 14 to 15%. When you look into the FY24, the expectation is about 980 rupees of EPS on Nifty. Our expectation in-house is slightly lower, but if you take the consensus right now, it's again 13 to 14% earnings growth over FY23. And don't forget, at the peak of 2008, we went to about 5.5–6% of corporate profitability to GDP. This went down to as low as 2.2%. And last year, we ended at 4.5% corporate profitability to GDP. And just last number and data point, for 5 years almost, we had a range of 3 to 3.5 lakh crore of profit for Nifty 50 companies. Our expectation is that this year, we should surpass 6,30,000 crore on Nifty 50 companies. And if you take the Nifty 500 companies, the number we used to be 4 to 5 lakh crores for almost 4 to 5 years. This year, we should cross 10 lakh crores. So definitely stock markets have reacted. And you are right in saying that finally stocks are slave of earnings in medium to long term. Sentiment flows can work in short term, but over the medium term, if profitability doesn't improve for corporates, finally stock market will reflect that. And clearly in the last 2 years, corporate India has done a fabulous job in increasing profitability.
So thanks, Pankaj. Very useful to actually hear the numbers, and with your permission, if I may just break that down for the participants. So what जो पंकज ने अभी कहा is that for example the Nifty 50, मतलब जो Nifty में जो 50 कंपनी है, right, उनके profits. The question was about how the profits are going to grow. So the numbers that Pankaj shared was about those companies, the Nifty 50, Nifty 500, the top 500 companies that are listed there, how the profits of these companies are likely to grow based on the different various estimates, considering how they have performed in the last 1 or 2 quarters. So that's very interesting. And as we said earlier, and Pankaj referred to that again, in the long term, the stock market does catch up. Right? It is not possible in the long term that the companies are doing well and the stock market is lagging behind. And also the opposite is not going to happen, that companies are not doing well, lekin stock market बढ़ रहा है. So there's always in the long term that catch up happens. Right? In the short term, it is possible that there are a few gaps. So thanks a lot, Pankaj, for that. Now next question is from a student. Right, so I'm very happy that we have a student also logging in today. I'm sure there are many, but here's a very interesting question. So as a student, is it good for us to do trading, uh, whether in stocks or futures options? I don't know, that's not mentioned. Is it good for us to do trading and earn along with studies? It's a very
So,
pointed question. What do you think about this?
so, trading is very lucrative and people think that they can make a lot of money. Uh, there's a very, very famous proverb in Bombay that people who stay from Bandra to Borivali are all traders, and people who are investors stay beyond Bandra to Nariman Point. So you can choose where you want to stay. Are you staying from Bandra to Nariman Point, or you want to stay from Bandra to Borivali? But we would suggest that don't get too lured by trading in the initial years. Initial years, you need the compounding machine to work in your favor. And always trading can be a additional income to your overall kitty, but it can't be the main one to start off with. If you do trading, don't be too surprised that you will finally have to pay a tuition fee. मतलब वो सीखने का पैसा देना पड़ेगा, tuition fee देना पड़ेगा. So we would not advise you that in your earlier years as a student, you engage in trading. हाँ, अगर आपको पैसा थोड़ा सा मतलब गवाना है, ट्यूशन फी देना है, तो आप जरूर एंगेज करिए. हार्ड अर्न वे में आप सीख लेंगे. बट अगर आपको कंपाउंडिंग आपके फेवर में काम करनी है, so please look at investing from a longer term. It's a great opportunity that you are young and you are starting very early, and you have that financial thought process in mind. So don't waste your energy and talent in trading, but focus on investing.
So trading के ऊपर मैं एक बात कहना चाहूंगा. India's best known trader is Radhakishan Damani ji, the promoter of DMart. फ्लेम इंस्टीट्यूट पुणे में उनके साथ बातचीत हो रही थी, तो एक बच्चे ने सवाल पूछा कि मुझे अगर आप जैसा ट्रेडर बनना है तो मैं क्या करूं. तो राधा किशन दमानी जी ने कहा कि देख बेटा, मैंने अपने बच्चों के लिए भी डीमार्ट खड़ी की है, उनको भी मैं ट्रेडिंग में नहीं ला रहा हूं, और मुझे खुद को नहीं मालूम कि अगर मैं दूसरी लाइफ लूंगा तो उसमें इसी प्रकार की ट्रेडिंग कर पाऊंगा क्या. Trading is a very, very hard way to make money. Maybe 1 out of 1,000% is successful trader. Investment is lazy and commonsensical way of making money. 99 out of 100 or 999 out of 1,000 will make money over there. But investing is like बिरबल की खिचड़ी, पकने में बहुत टाइम लगता है. तो my recommendation, like Pankaj, be an investor, don't be a trader, make money easy way rather than hard way.
Thank you for that example that you shared about Mr. Damani. I think that's very important. At least in the initial years, I think your studies and your career is really, really important. So please do focus on that, right? And when it comes to trading, I think that as Nilesh also said, 1 in 1,000, I would actually maybe say 1 in 10,000 actually makes it. So it's not as easy. 1, 2, trading there is always one winner and one loser, right? So I think that's also very important. So if somebody makes money, somebody has to lose money. Not necessarily that's the way it happens in investing. Investing is completely different. It is for the long term. It does not involve too much time, right? And hence there are 2 different aspects to this. So please do consider all of these. Do adequate research without paying too much tuition fee, as Pankaj said, that is without losing your money before you get into something like this, right? All right, moving on to the next question. So the question is, in the last few days, we have seen the stock markets go up after a short phase of volatility. Are we in a bull run? क्या हम अब bull run में हैं या आगे जाके will we see any volatility, right? So that is the entire question. क्या ये bull run शुरू हुआ है या क्या फिर से volatility आने वाली है? What do you think?
Undoubtedly, we are in a bull run, but in every bull run there will be volatility. In fact, bull run का मजा तभी आता है जब volatility हो. It's like roller coaster ride. अगर वो रेलवे की पटरी की तरह सीधी है तो उसमें रोलर कोस्टर का मजा क्या? रोलर कोस्टर का तो मजा तभी आता है जब आप ऊपर से जोर से नीचे गिरे, चिल्लाए, चीखे, and you stay in the roller coaster. So every bull run will have n number of volatility. Please remember that bull market and bear market and stock market is like full moon and no moon. पूनम और अमास की तरह है, वो आती रहेगी जाती रहेगी, खाली किसी को ये पता नहीं है कब पूनम होगी कब अमास होगी. In the worst of the phase, bull run begins. In the best of the phase, bear run begins. So we are in a bull run because India is growing. India will go from 3 trillion to 10 trillion and beyond. Market cap will follow. So it's a bull run in our market because Indian economy is doing well. But be ready for volatility. मार्केट में उतार चढ़ाव तो आते ही रहेंगे, जैसे पूनम और अमास होती है नेचर में.
That's well said, Nilesh bhai. I think absolutely. Pankaj also mentioned that earlier, right? Market ups and downs will always happen. Are we in a secular bull run? At least in India, yes, the growth phase has begun. We are seeing that, and it's going to happen for the next foreseeable future at least. So it's definitely in some kind of thing, but there will be volatility. So again, do not try and time your investments, right? That's very important. So I think we are running out of time, but I think I just have time, with your permission, maybe the last two questions. So one is very specific related to the interest rates, which is how will the rate hike, RBI, the Reserve Bank of India, जो rate interest rates बढ़ा रही है, how will this interest rate hike affect retail investors?
So जब इंटरेस्ट रेट बढ़ते हैं तो आपकी ईएमआई की कॉस्ट बढ़ जाती है, आपकी बोरोइंग कॉस्टली हो जाती है. बट लुक एट दिस वे कि आरबीआई एक ड्राइवर है जो इंडियन इकोनॉमी में एक्सेलरेटर और ब्रेक दोनों लगाता है. आप देखिए, अगर ड्राइवर खाली एक्सेलरेटर ही चलाता रहे तो आज नहीं तो कल वो एक्सीडेंट कर देगा. उसे एक्सेलरेटर के साथ साथ ब्रेक लगाना जरूरी है. जब आरबीआई रेट काटता है, लिक्विडिटी देता है, तो एक्सेलरेटर दबाता है, इकोनॉमी में ग्रोथ आती है. जब आरबीआई लिक्विडिटी काटता है, ब्याज की दर बढ़ाता है, तो लिक्विडिटी तो इकोनॉमी में ग्रोथ आती है और गाड़ी जोर से चलती है.
So thanks for that insight. I think it brings me to the last question, right? And this is, while we could have used this as the first question, but it has just come in. And the question is, I am a first time investor. Which is a good equity fund category to invest? So actually, the gentleman is asking, or the lady, whoever, I don't know, is asking in a way two questions. So first, they seem to have decided that maybe equity is a good way to invest. So I think it's definitely related to long-term investing, I'm guessing. But within equity, they're asking for a first-time investor, which is the good category to begin with.
I think when you start off equity investing, I think it's very important to get a good experience. So I think the first step will be to taste what equity is at a very smaller piece. And I think hybrid funds and balanced advantage funds are a great way to start your equity investing journey. Once you feel comfortable with drawdowns, once you feel comfortable with volatility in the markets, you slowly graduate to large caps as a pure diversified equity fund. Once you know that, okay, your temperament, your emotions, you can manage the volatility, you can see the ups and downs of the market, you move to the other segments called the broader segment of the market, which is mid and small caps, where volatility tends to be generally higher, drawdowns tends to be generally higher. But in this journey of equity investing, start with hybrid funds, balanced advantage funds, taste the equity part, then move to large caps, and then move to the broader market funds, which is mid and small caps. So that's how your equity journey should start. And every part of the journey, you should know yourself better. whether you are made for equities or not, whether your temperament allows you to carry on your equity investing or not. Most of the times when markets are doing well, we go to social parties, everybody is investing, everybody is talking about stocks, you feel left out. And you know that your temperament is not for equity, but you just follow the herd and invest and redeem at the wrong time when markets are down 30, 40, 50%. So again, I repeat, know yourself is very, very important in equity investing. And if you start with this process, following with hybrid, then large cap, then mid and small caps, I think you would know your temperament much, much better, whether you are made for equity investing.
Thank you. I think Pankaj, very useful, and I think a good way to come towards the end of this session. जो पंकज ने अभी बताया है कि अगर आप शुरुआत कर रहे हैं इन्वेस्टिंग में, तो आप हाइब्रिड फंड्स which are actually they invest partly in equity, partly in debt, मतलब पूरा पैसा इक्विटी में नहीं जाता है, लेकिन फंड मैनेजर ये डिसाइड करता है, right? So that's a good way to start, followed by maybe large cap, which is the top largest, the biggest companies listed in the Indian stock market. So maybe that's the next one. लेकिन I think जो most important part जो पंकज ने अभी बताया है is that it's always linked to your experience, your temperament जो उन्होंने बताया. How are you feeling about investing in equity? Because there will be days जब equity आपके investments बढ़ रहे हैं, जब कम हो रहे. How are you feeling? Go by that. Do not go by what others are doing. Yes, definitely listen to your friends, family, everyone else. But when you are finally making your choice, जब आप finally decide कर रहे हैं जहाँ पे आपको invest करना है, go by what your experience has been, and hence it's recommended कि आप slow start करें. मतलब पूरा पैसा लगा के start ना करें, but start slowly over a period of time. So thanks a lot for that, Pankaj, and thank you and Nilesh for a very, very insightful session. And thank you to all our participants for joining in. I hope you had an interesting time and found these insights useful. We look forward to interacting with you again and answering your questions soon. Thank you and bye-bye.